We're going to be doing the Caesar, which is this nice little dagger. We're going to be finishing it with some bacote wood. We'll turn that into this. So this is 1095. We're going to heat treat it at about 1650, just till it's non-magnetic. So we're just going to throw it into the kiln for a little bit, and then about 10 minutes let it soak. And then we'll quench it in just regular oil. So when you're quenching blades, just make sure to go up and down, especially with a thin tip. You don't want to cause any warps at this point. Then we'll just cool it down to when it's cold enough to touch with our hands. Now we're going to draw it back with a torch instead of doing the oven method of tempering. Oven's probably better, but we're going to give it a try with the torch. So when doing this with a torch, you want to start on the thicker sides. It's really easy to over temper. There we go. We tempered it back to the blue and kind of the purplish color back here because it's fine if this is soft. But up here, it fades into that gold right at the cutting edge, all the way up to the tip. So it's tempered, we're ready to grind it. We're going to be using it's called a filing jig, or a file guide. We're just going to square it up to our plunge lines, just like that. And then we'll tighten it down. Just make sure not to over tighten if you use these. You can break off the carbide piece right there. Here we go. Ready to grind this bad boy. 60 grit. That's going to be the majority of our grinding. For something like this, it's going to be about 1/4 of an inch is all we're going in. It's going to be real fast. Just going to get our scribe lines. And these are really only important on this kind of knife, just right here, so you know where to stop right there. So with a dagger kind of like this, you don't have to do a bevel on all 4 sides. You can take it from your center scribe on the face of your blade all the way down to the very outside edge. So that's what we're doing. So it's made to go into things. It's not made to like slice stuff like paper. So that's why you can do a big bevel like that. So make sure to use a worn out belt first, something that you've kind of already used to knock off those big edges first. And since this has already been tempered, make sure to keep dunking it so you don't over temper it. We made it to our center line up here. You can see how thin that edge is on the back side, and it's flat. So that's what we're looking for. Now as we switch it over to this other side, it'll keep this center line straight down the middle. So right here you can see the difference in the 60 to the 120. Switch it over to the other side. And there we go. Now we'll go to the 220. And this is a J-Flex belt. Alright, so we've done over the 60. It's super thin on each side. So now we're going to switch up to a 120 gator belt, or a Trizac belt, whichever one you want to call it. I'm just going to get rid of these thick grind lines, and then once these ones are gone, we'll go up to a 220, and then we'll hit it with a blue Scotch-Brite with some WD-40 on it. This is for reference point of views to show how thin the edge is. It's already sharp enough to cut paper. We still have one more finishing belt to do, which is the Scotch-Brite belt. So this is the blue Scotch-Brite. You can see it's pretty coarse. We want to hit it with some WD-40, and this will help round off and smooth off a lot of those lines. But this is about a 220 finish, and it'll give it a nice satin finish. See that nice satiny finish? Here we are drilling the pins through the wood so we can glue it up. Did forget to sand the pins here a little bit, so I made the glue up a little bit harder than it needed to be. But it was a real tight fit and it fought us a little bit. And now we're describing where our handle is going to be so we know where to grind it to and where we can do our top of our grip. Now we need to get our top of our scales done. And we are going to do some straight lines, follow the shape, something like that. All right, we're ready to glue up. So we're going to be using our 2-part epoxy, equal parts. We got it all glued up and ready to sit overnight. As you kind of saw, the pins gave us some fight. So just make sure to sand them down a little bit before you glue up. Here it is the next morning, and we're ready to profile and take down the pins. I should have switched to a brand new belt for this. This wood is pretty dense. We smoked it a little bit here at the end of profiling the handle. So we're just taking the wood down to the kind of the spine of the handle, spine of the knife, and then we'll start working on the outside profile of it, just giving it that rounded shape that we're looking for. As far as these inside finger areas, we're going to be doing some of that with small wheel attachments. And we're still on the 60 grit here. When doing the 60 or doing the small wheels, you want to make sure not to hold it in one spot. You'll create yourself a divot. So you just want to constantly move back and forth, usually the whole length, like I am doing right here. So now we're going to start knocking off these hard corners. And we're still with the 60 grit at this point. Again, this wood is real hard. It's a real good natural wood. It will last a long time if taken care of properly. You can kind of see we're giving it a little bit of a bottle Coke style handle where it's thin on each side and thicker in the middle. And then we'll be switching to a 220 belt here in a second. I'm using the slack part of this machine to really give it a good rounded off handle and make it comfortable. We switched to a 1x72 scalloped belt so we can get into those little areas a little bit better, and then we'll finish off polishing up this handle to 220. You can kind of see how nice it polishes up just at 220. And there we go. Now we're ready to hand sand. Starting at 220 with the hand sanding, and then go to 320, 400. When I wet sand it with a couple different grits, 800 to 2000, and this will just give it a good natural high gloss finish, since we're not going to be putting any buffing compound on it. We've got this little bit of a crack right here. One thing we can actually do is we can resand it with a boiled linseed, and it'll fill that crack in with a high grit. So we go back over it with 800 and the boiled linseed, and it'll fill in that crack. And this is with a 400 grit. We're just putting an edge on it. It doesn't need much because it's already pretty much sharp. We're just going to get that burr showing, and then we'll strop off the burr later. And there we go. We've got our finished Caesar dagger. Just make sure not to stab your friends on the back. All right, we finished the Caesar. This is a stabby knife, so it's made for going through things. Not so much for slicing. There you go. Enjoy it.